Buying or selling a home is one of the biggest financial decisions most people will ever make. But what if I told you that, despite all the research and planning, your brain might still be working against you? I'm Eric with Andersen Realty Group, and behavioral economist Daniel Kahneman spent decades studying how our decisions aren't quite as rational as we might like to think they are. His acclaimed book, Thinking Fast and Slow, shows us the hidden cognitive biases that influence our choices, sometimes in ways that can cost us thousands of dollars. When it comes to real estate, these biases shape how buyers and sellers perceive value, negotiate, and ultimately make decisions. The good news is that once you understand these mental shortcuts, you can identify them before they lead to costly mistakes. In this video, we'll look at the key psychological traps that influence home buyers and sellers and how to avoid them. First impressions matter, especially when it comes to price. The anchoring effect is the tendency to rely too much on the first piece of information we see. For buyers, this means asking price often serves as a mental benchmark. If a home is listed at $550,000, any negotiation naturally revolves around that number, even if the home's actual value is lower. A small price reduction might feel like a really big deal, even if the home was overpriced in the first place. For sellers, the anchoring effect is a double-edged sword. Price a home too high, and you risk scaring away buyers who assume it's out of their price range. But price it strategically, just low enough to generate interest in possibly multiple offers, and you can create a bidding war that pushes the final sale price even higher. The key is knowing that the first number buyers see will shape their perception of the home's value. If you're buying, don't take asking price as gospel truth. Do independent research, look at the comps, and try to determine a reasonable market value for the home. If you're selling, know that your asking price isn't just a number, it's a marketing tool that will set the stage for negotiations. People hate losing. Research shows that losses feel twice as painful as equivalent gains feel good. This is what's known as loss aversion, our tendency to avoid losses at all costs, which sometimes leads us to make decisions irrationally. Buyers face loss aversion when they're afraid of losing a home to another buyer. The fear of missing out can lead to overpaying in competitive markets or rushing into a purchase before doing your proper diligence. It's a big reason why bidding wars can get so crazy. Once you've mentally committed to a house, the thought of losing it feels unbearable. For sellers, loss aversion often results in overpricing. Homeowners tend to overvalue their property simply because it's theirs. They remember every upgrade, every holiday they celebrated there, and every hour spent perfecting the landscaping. Their emotional attachment makes the idea of losing money on the sale harder to accept, even if the market says otherwise. The solution? Buyers should set a clear budget and stick to it, no matter how much they love a home. Sellers should focus on market data, not emotions, when setting a price. The market doesn't care how much you paid for your home or how much work you put into it. The only thing that matters is how much buyers are willing to pay for your home now. How something is framed changes how we feel about it, even if the facts remain the same. This is what's known as the framing effect. Buyers see it all the time in real estate listings. A home described as 90% updated sounds so much better than 10% still needs work, even though both statements mean the same exact thing. A seller might describe their home as cozy or having a cozy backyard rather than calling it small with limited space. Sellers can use the framing effect to their advantage by framing their home's features in the most attractive way possible. Instead of emphasizing what's missing, they highlight what's there. Lots of potential sounds so much better than a complete disaster. For buyers, the key is to reframe the information yourself. When you hear that a home is in a hot neighborhood, ask, is it actually appreciating, or is that just marketing hype? If it has a freshly redone basement, is that because it has major water problems? Sellers craft descriptions to make homes sound as appealing as possible. It's your job as a buyer to see past their framing. Have you ever noticed how restaurants sometimes have oddly expensive dishes on the menu, seemingly overpriced? That's because its real purpose isn't to sell that dish, it's to make the other options seem like a better deal. The same thing happens in real estate. This is known as the decoy effect. If a buyer is comparing two homes at the same price, considering a third, slightly less appealing home can make one of the first two look like a great deal. Sellers will often price their listing just below the others in a neighborhood, making theirs seem like a deal by comparison. For buyers, the takeaway is clear. Evaluate each home on its own merit, not just how it compares to the others you've seen that day. For sellers, you can leverage this bias by pricing your home strategically relative to the competition. The endowment effect is our tendency to overvalue what we own simply because we own it. Sellers do this all the time. The house isn't just four walls and a roof. It's where their kids took their first steps, where they celebrated holidays and made a lifetime of memories. Naturally, that makes their home more valuable than all the other homes in the area. The trouble is, buyers don't share your emotional connection. They're evaluating your home based on things like size, layout, condition, and features. For sellers, the best approach is to think like a buyer. Look at the numbers objectively and trust the data, not your emotions, when setting your price. Beyond the major biases that impact both buyers and sellers, there are a few other mental traps that buyers should be aware of. One of the most common is confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that supports what we already believe while ignoring anything that contradicts it. Once a buyer falls in love with a home, every detail suddenly reinforces their positive impression. A slightly outdated kitchen? Nothing a coat of paint won't fix. A smaller backyard? That just means less maintenance. Meanwhile, serious concerns like structural issues or an overpriced listing get rationalized away. To avoid this, buyers should actively look for reasons not to buy a home. Challenge your first impressions, carefully review inspection reports, and ask the tough questions before making an emotional commitment. Another bias that leads buyers into trouble is overconfidence. They believe that they can judge a home's condition on instinct. It's easy to walk through a house and think, I know a solid house when I see one. But a fresh coat of paint and well-staged furniture can cover up a multitude of real estate sins. Some buyers even waive home inspections in competitive markets, assuming they'll be able to spot any major red flags on their own. This kind of overconfidence can be very costly. Unless you're buying a teardown, a professional home inspection is always a good idea. Finally, there is the sunk cost fallacy. The feeling that once you've invested time, effort, or money into something, you need to see it through, even if it's not the best choice. Buyers sometimes fall into this trap after spending weeks or months searching for a home. When they find something that's almost right, they go through with the purchase just to justify all the effort they've put in. Or they're so desperate to move, they'll settle for practically anything. This is a big mistake. Past efforts or a less than ideal current living situation doesn't make a bad decision better. If a home doesn't seem like the right fit, the best thing you can do is to walk away. Buying a home isn't just about the numbers. It's an incredibly emotional decision, and when buyers recognize these hidden biases, they'll be in a much better position to make decisions that are based on facts and not just feelings. Understanding these biases won't just make you a more informed buyer or seller, it can save you thousands of dollars. Real estate is as much about psychology as it is about property, and the better you understand these mental shortcuts, the better decisions you'll make. If you'd like honest, bias-free help selling or buying a home in the western suburbs of Chicago, reach out anytime using my contact information below. And if you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'm Eric with Andersen Realty Group, a family-owned brokerage where we treat our clients like family.